Winners lose the most. And it was finally time for me to actually depart on this adventure. It was a nonstop sprint to all corners of the world. I started in Antarctica at the South Pole, then Mount Vinson, then Carson's Pyramid, Kilimanjaro in Africa, Aconcagua. I'm going back to back to back to back. Jenna's running all the expedition logistics in the background, and we've got our nonprofit off the ground, which we're really proud of at this point. But I'm going, the only sleep I'm getting is on like planes in the middle seat, and the last flight to one place, the next place, next place, next place. And after 100 days of nonstop climbing, I finally get to this point.
I'm on the summit of Mount Everest, top of the world. No words can describe.
An incredible moment for me, and the little boy inside of me is quite excited at this point. But any good mountaineer will tell you that the summit is really only halfway. 80% of climbing accidents happen on the descent. So I stumble back down to the highest camp. That's at Camp 4, 26,000 feet, still in the death zone. You've still got, many days to descend the mountain, so you can really say, hey, I made it off the mountain, I summited, but I also survived. And I pull up my sat phone and I call home to Jenna. I tell her, I said, I did it. I summited Mount Everest. I'm exhausted. It took me an hour to unzip my boots and get inside my tent. It's gonna take me a while to get down from here, but I did it. She goes, like, no frostbite, no injuries? Like, no frostbite, I'm just exhausted. Long pause. She then says something that I will never forget for the rest of my life. She goes, well, in that case, I need you to put your boots back on. I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, I've been doing some calculating back home, and it just so happens that if you can get to the summit of your final peak, Denali, in the next week, you can set not one, but 2 world records. I'm like, Denali is in North America. It takes 3 weeks to climb. I'm in the death zone. What? Like, what are you talking about? She goes, no, I've got a plan. Just follow my plan. Put your boots back on right now. Climb all the way back down to base camp in one push. I've arranged a helicopter to take you to Kathmandu. No time to sleep overnight and shower, but an evening flight will take you Kathmandu to Dubai, Dubai to Seattle, Seattle to Anchorage. And yeah, you won't have 3 weeks, but you have 3 days to climb Denali. It seemed impossible. But one of my favorite quotes is this. He who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right. I had no idea if we could pull off Jenna's seemingly impossible plan, but I did know I could at least follow her first instruction and put those boots back on. Sure enough, just 100 hours after standing on the summit of Mount Everest, I found myself at the base of Denali climbing my last peak. I give a whole keynote about those 3 days. The worst storm, it was brutal. I shouldn't have been climbing. But with one last breath, one last push, on the afternoon of May 27, 2016, I summited Denali, setting not one, but 2 world records for both the Explorers Grand Slam and the 7 summits. Thank you. And this brings us to number 5. Strive together, thrive together. We've all heard all the platitudes on teamwork, and they're super important, but I'm going to take it a step deeper here, which is with our teams. I'm actually a member of Jackson Hole YPO, so it's great to be amongst YPOers. But I know this is such a high-performing room, and you guys have teams, families, all this. But it's one thing to have people kind of share your vision, but when you really, truly have that same shared vision and you strive together, many of you are presidents and CEOs in this room, but you have that right hand or that executive member or maybe a junior employee that believes so fundamentally in it. We are not always at our best. We're not. Even the best leaders in this room, we have off days. We have to trust others. Me, in that moment, in my tent, in Everest, I could have never made that decision. But because Jen and I were so in lockstep with our goals in that moment, we were striving for the same thing, we were able to thrive together. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is after this, we did get the press and the media exposure that we hoped for to really launch our nonprofit. And at this point, I'm proud to say there's been over 1 million students enrolled in our nonprofit programs over the course of the last several years.